Princeton one, stop what you are doing. I am not saying that to be dramatic. I am saying it because something has already stopped around you, and you know it. You have felt it for weeks now, maybe longer. A heaviness in your chest that has nothing to do with anything medical. A tiredness that no amount of sleep seems to fix. A strange, unsettling quiet in your life that you did not choose and cannot explain. If you are around other people right now, I need you to step away. Find a space where it is just you and what you are about to hear, because this message was not designed for background noise. It was not meant to be half listened to while you scroll through something else. What I am about to share requires your full presence, your full attention, and your full stillness. Take a real breath right now. Not a shallow one, a deep one. The kind that fills your lungs all the way down to the bottom. Good. Now stay with me. I want you to notice something about your body right now. Not later. Right now. Notice how your shoulders have been carrying tension you did not consciously put there. Notice how your jaw has been tighter than usual, as though you have been bracing for something you cannot name. Notice how your chest has felt heavier these past few weeks, not in a way that hurts exactly, but in a way that presses, like something invisible is sitting on you. Notice how your mind has been louder than usual, racing at 3 in the morning, replaying conversations, rehearsing scenarios, circling the same unanswered questions over and over again. And notice, maybe for the first time, how your spirit has felt crowded even when you are physically alone, as if the emptiness around you is somehow louder than a room full of people. You have probably blamed yourself for all of this. You have probably told yourself you are just stressed or tired or going through a rough patch. You have probably looked around at everyone else and wondered why they seem to be moving forward while you feel cemented in place, watching life happen through a window you cannot open. But what if none of that is what you think it is? What if the heaviness, the fatigue, the closed doors, the departed people, the strange silence that has settled over your life like fog, what if all of it is not a sign that something is going wrong, but a sign that something is going exactly right? Because I need to tell you something, and I need you to hear it clearly. What is happening to you right now has a name, not a clinical name, not a psychological term, a divine name. In the spiritual realm, what you are experiencing is called an emergency lockdown, and it was not issued because you failed. It was not issued because you did something wrong. It was issued because something inside you is so valuable, so irreplaceable, so critical to what heaven is about to do on this earth, that it decided nothing and no one should have access to you during this phase. Let me say that again so it lands where it needs to land. Heaven looked at what is inside you, and heaven said, "This one needs to be contained, not punished, contained, protected, sealed off from contamination, from distraction, from premature exposure, from anyone and anything that could interfere with what is being built." The same containment was placed over Joseph before his throne room. The same restriction was placed over Moses before his mission. The same burial was placed over every seed that must disappear into complete darkness before it becomes what it was always meant to be. And right now, that same protocol has been placed over you. Now I need you to understand what I am about to walk you through, because this is not a short message, and it is not meant to be. Over the course of this entire journey, I am going to show you 4 phases of this divine lockdown. The first phase is containment, where you are right now, where everything external is being restricted. The second phase is purification, where I will show you exactly why heaven shut everything down and what is being cleaned out of your frequency. The third phase is fortification, where I will reveal what is being built inside you right now that you cannot see yet. And I will give you a specific framework, a tool you can use starting tonight. to navigate this season without breaking what God is constructing. And the fourth phase is deployment, where I will show you who you become when heaven finally opens the gates. And I promise you, the person who walks out of this lockdown will not be the person who walked in. By the end of this message, you will have answers, real answers, not motivation, not surface comfort, deep structural understanding of why your life looks the way it does right now. And at the very end, I am going to speak something over your life, an activation, a commissioning that I believe will stay with you long after you leave this space. You were not scrolling aimlessly when you found this. You were not bored. You were not killing time. Something brought you here, and it was not luck. It was not chance. It was not a random suggestion. Something larger than your circumstances guided your attention to this exact message at this exact moment, because you are ready to hear what I am about to say. Not everyone is, but you are. And the fact that you are still here, still listening, still present, that is confirmation in itself. So stay with me. Do not leave. What I am about to show you will change how you see every closed door, every lost connection, every silent night, and every unanswered prayer you have carried in this season. If your body recognized itself in what I just described, if something inside you confirmed what your spirit already knew before your mind could catch up, I want you to type 777 in the comments right now. Not because it is a magic number, but because it is an act of acknowledgement. Your spirit is saying, yes, I know what this is. Let your fingers confirm what your chest already felt. Now, let me take you somewhere. I want you to picture this, because I think you have lived it. It is late, not the kind of late where the world is winding down, the kind of late where the world has already moved on and you are the only one still awake. You are sitting somewhere, maybe on the edge of your bed, maybe in your car parked in the driveway because you are not ready to go inside yet, maybe on the couch with the television on, but the volume so low, it is just shapes and light. Your phone is in your hand, but you are not scrolling. You are staring at a screen full of names, contacts, people who used to call, people who used to check in, people who swore they would always be there. And you realize, with a weight that hits somewhere behind your ribcage, that there is not a single person on that list you can call right now who would truly understand the depth of what you are feeling. Not because they do not care, some of them do, but because what is happening to you does not have words yet. You cannot explain why you feel so heavy when nothing visibly catastrophic has occurred. You cannot explain why you are exhausted when you have not done anything physically demanding. You cannot explain why the future, which used to excite you, now feels like a fog you are walking through blindfolded. And so, you sit there, alone, wondering if this is just what your life is now. Wondering if the best years are behind you. Wondering if you missed something somewhere, took a wrong turn, made a decision that led you to this stillness that feels less like peace and more like paralysis. I see you, and I need you to hear what I am about to say next very carefully. That scene I just described, the one that made your chest tighten slightly, the one that felt less like a description and more like a memory, that scene is not evidence of your failure. That scene is evidence of your lockdown. Every single element of it, the isolation, the silence, the inability to connect, the fog, the heaviness, the disappeared people, all of it is part of a deliberate divine containment protocol that has been activated over your life. And I am about to prove it to you. There are 7 specific signs that confirm heaven has issued an emergency lockdown over your life. I am going to walk you through each one, and as I do, I want you to count internally how many of them you recognize, not in theory. In your actual lived experience over the past several weeks and months, the more of these you recognize, the more certain the lockdown becomes. And by the time I finish, you will no longer be guessing about what is happening to you. You will know. The first sign is unexplained exhaustion. And I am not talking about the kind of tired you feel after a long day of work. I am not talking about physical fatigue from exercise or lack of sleep. I am talking about a tiredness that sits in your bones, the kind that follows you from the moment you open your eyes in the morning to the moment you finally close them at night. And even then, sleep does not fix it. You wake up after 8 hours and feel like you only got 2. You drag yourself through the day wondering if something is medically wrong, and maybe you have even gone to a doctor and heard them say, "Everything looks fine," and you walked out more confused than when you walked in, because your body is telling you something very different from what the test results show. This exhaustion is not random. It is not a vitamin deficiency. It is not burnout in the traditional sense. What you are experiencing is your physical body processing a frequency shift that your conscious mind has not caught up to yet. When heaven initiates a lockdown, your entire system, spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical, begins to recalibrate. Your body is the last to understand what is happening, but it is the first to feel the weight of it. You are tired because your system is doing internal work that requires enormous energy, the kind of energy that used to go outward into the world, into relationships, into projects, into performing, and that energy has been redirected inward. It is building something. You just cannot see it yet because the construction is happening on the inside. The second sign is relationship evacuation. Look at your life over the past 6 months. Who left? I am not talking about dramatic exits, although some of them may have been dramatic. I am talking about the slow, strange, almost surgical removal of people from your world. Friends who used to call every week, and now you realize you have not heard from them in months. Family members who have become distant in ways that do not have a clear explanation. Colleagues who used to collaborate with you and now seem to orbit around everyone except you. Maybe a romantic relationship ended. Maybe a friendship that lasted years simply dissolved without a fight, without a clear reason, just a fading, like a photograph left in the sun too long. And here is the part that stings the most. Some of these people did not leave because they were bad for you. Some of them were good people, kind people, people you genuinely cared about, and they are gone, and you do not understand why. I want you to see this differently. What if those departures were not rejections? What if they were evacuations? In the natural world, before a building undergoes a controlled demolition to make way for something new, the first thing that happens is everyone inside is evacuated. Not because the people are bad, but because what is about to happen in that space is too intense, too transformative, too structurally significant for anyone to be present who is not essential to the process. Heaven cleared your perimeter. It removed people not because you are unworthy of connection, but because what is being built inside you right now requires a level of isolation that the presence of certain people would contaminate. Some people carry frequencies that interfere with what God is calibrating in you. Some people carry expectations that would distort the identity that is being formed. And some people, honestly, would not survive what is about to happen in your life. And removing them was an act of mercy for both of you. The third sign is opportunity dissolution. Think about the doors you tried to walk through recently, the job you applied for and never heard back from, the business idea that had momentum and then inexplicably stalled, the connection that seemed promising and then vanished, the plan that was coming together perfectly until, overnight, it was not. You stood there watching opportunities dissolve in front of you, and you thought something was wrong with you. You thought you were not qualified enough, not connected enough, not lucky enough. You started to wonder if maybe the universe, or God, or whatever you believe in, had simply decided to pass you by. But what if those doors did not close because you were not ready for what was behind them? What if those doors closed because what was behind them was not ready for you? What if the opportunity you are chasing right now is a version of success that belongs to the old you, the version of you that existed before this lockdown began, and heaven shut it down because giving it to you now would actually delay the greater thing that is coming? This is hard to accept when you are in the middle of it. I understand that. When the bills are stacking and the phone is quiet and the inbox is empty and every path forward seems to hit a wall, it does not feel like divine strategy. It feels like divine silence. But I need you to hold on to this truth even when your circumstances scream otherwise. Closed doors during a lockdown are not dead ends. They are divine security perimeters. They are heaven saying, not this door, not this path, not this version. Something larger is being prepared, and I will not let you settle for something smaller just because it arrived first. The fourth sign is increased dream activity. If you are in a divine lockdown, your dream life has changed. And I do not mean you are having slightly more vivid dreams. I mean your dream world has become a second reality. You are having dreams that feel more real than your waking life. Dreams where you are searching for something you cannot name. Dreams where you are in places you have never been but somehow recognize. Dreams where you are speaking to people whose faces you cannot see, but whose presence feels ancient and familiar. Some of you are having recurring dreams, the same location, the same scenario, the same emotion, playing on repeat as if your subconscious is trying to deliver a message that your waking mind keeps missing. Some of you have woken up crying and did not know why. Some of you have woken up with a sense of peace so profound it disappeared the moment your feet hit the floor. And some of you have had dreams that felt prophetic, dreams where you saw a version of your future that was so specific, so detailed, so vivid, that you spent the rest of the day wondering if it was real. It was. Or at least, it was showing you something real. During a lockdown, when your external world is shut down, your internal world opens up. The noise that usually fills your waking hours, the conversations, the notifications, the obligations, the performance, all of that noise acts as static that blocks the deeper signal. When heaven removes the static by locking down your external life, the signal gets louder, and dreams are one of the primary channels through which that signal reaches you. If your dreams have intensified, if they have become cinematic, prophetic, emotional, strange, beautiful, terrifying, or all of the above, that is not your brain misfiring. That is your spirit receiving transmissions that your waking mind is not yet equipped to process. The lockdown cleared the channel, and heaven is speaking to you at night, because that is when you are finally quiet enough to hear. Now let me tell you something important before I continue. If you stay with me through this entire message, by the time we reach the end, you will not only understand every sign and every phase of what you are going through, but you will receive a specific framework you can use immediately to navigate this season. You will learn about a scientific discovery involving your brain that explains the fog and the fatigue in a way no one has told you before. And I will speak an activation over your life in the final moments that I believe will mark a turning point in your journey. This is not hype. This is structure. And every minute you invest here will return something concrete to your life. But we are not done with the signs yet, because the first 4 I just showed you are only the surface. The next 3 go deeper. And the 5th sign, the one I am about to reveal in the next part, is the one that most people never talk about, but nearly every chosen one I have encountered has experienced. It is the sign that your tolerance has shifted, that the things you used to accept without question have become physically unbearable, And when you understand why, everything about this lockdown will start to make a different kind of sense. The fifth sign is changed tolerance, and this one is going to hit close to home for many of you. Think about the conversations you used to sit through without a problem, the gossip, the complaining, the surface-level small talk that went nowhere but somehow filled entire hours. Think about the environments you used to navigate comfortably, the loud gatherings, the crowded rooms, the social obligations that you showed up to because that is just what people do. Think about the relationships you used to maintain on autopilot, the ones where you played a role, wore a mask, performed a version of yourself that kept the peace even though it drained the life out of you. Now notice what has changed. Those conversations have become unbearable. Not mildly annoying, physically unbearable. You sit there and your body starts to reject the interaction. Your chest tightens, your patience evaporates. You feel an almost visceral need to leave, to escape, to get somewhere quiet where you can breathe again. And it is not just conversations. Entire environments that used to feel normal now feel suffocating. Music you used to enjoy feels too loud. Crowds you used to handle feel too close. Drama you used to tolerate now feels toxic in a way you cannot explain, because nothing about the drama has changed. You have changed. And here is what makes this sign so confusing. The people around you have not changed. The environments have not changed. The noise level is the same. The gossip is the same. The expectations are the same. Everything external is identical to what it was 6 months ago or a year ago. But something inside you has shifted so dramatically that what used to be normal now feels foreign. Like wearing shoes that used to fit perfectly and now pinch with every step. You are not becoming antisocial. You are not becoming difficult. You are not becoming too sensitive or too picky or too much of anything that the people around you might label you. What is happening is that your internal frequency is being recalibrated during this lockdown. And as your frequency rises, your tolerance for lower frequencies drops. It is not a choice. It is physics. It is the same reason a tuning fork vibrating at a high pitch will not resonate with one vibrating at a low pitch. They exist in different registers. And you are being tuned to a register that most of the people and places in your current life simply cannot match. This is painful. I will not pretend it is not, because it means the world you built around the old frequency, the friendships, the habits, the routines, the comfort zones, none of it fits anymore. And letting go of a life that no longer fits is one of the most disorienting experiences a human being can go through. But the lockdown is not stripping you of your life. It is stripping you of a frequency that was never yours to begin with. The heaviness you carried in those spaces was the weight of pretending, and heaven decided you have pretended long enough. Now, I told you that the first 5 signs alone would be enough to confirm what is happening. And they are. If you recognized yourself in all 5, or even in 3 of them, what you are experiencing is not random. It is not coincidental. It is not bad luck or bad timing or a bad season. It is a lockdown, and it is divine. But I would be doing you a disservice if I stopped here. Because the next 2 signs take this deeper. They move beyond what you can observe externally and into territory that is harder to articulate, harder to explain to anyone who has not experienced it, and harder to dismiss once you hear it. The 6th sign is time distortion. Something has happened to time in your life, and you have noticed it even if you have not said it out loud. Days feel simultaneously endless and instant. You wake up on a Monday, and by the time you blink it is Thursday, but somehow each individual hour within those days dragged like it was dipped in cement. A week passes, and you cannot account for what happened in it. Not because you were busy, because you were not. And that is the disorienting part. You have done almost nothing, yet time has moved in ways that do not make logical sense. Some of you have looked at a clock and been genuinely shocked by the time, not because you lost track of it, but because your internal clock, the one that runs in your gut, told you something completely different from what the numbers on the screen said. You feel like you have been in this season for years, but when you count the months, it has only been a few, or the opposite. You feel like this just started, but when you look back, you realize months have slipped by without leaving any markers. No milestones, no achievements, no memorable events, just a blur of waiting. This is not your imagination, and it is not depression, although it can mimic it closely enough to fool you. What is happening is that you are operating on two different time systems simultaneously. The world runs on chronos, clock time, calendar time, the kind of time that moves in predictable, measurable increments. But your lockdown is not operating on chronos. Your lockdown is operating on Kairos. And I will explain what Kairos means in a moment, because there is an ancient word for it that will unlock something in your understanding. But first, the seventh sign. The seventh sign is the knowing. This is the one that confirms everything, and it is the hardest one to put into words because it is not something you can point to or measure or show someone else. It is internal, it is quiet, and it has been sitting in your chest for longer than you have been willing to admit. You know something is happening. You do not know what it is. You do not know when it will end. You do not know what it is leading to. But you know, with a certainty that defies your circumstances, that something is happening, not to the world, not to someone else, to you, specifically, directly, intentionally. It is not a thought. It is deeper than a thought. It is not a hope, because hope lives in the future, and this knowing lives in the present tense. It is a sense, a vibration, a frequency of awareness that hums beneath everything else in your life, beneath the doubt, beneath the fear, beneath the frustration, beneath the confusion. There is this quiet, stubborn knowing that says, this is not random. This is not over, and something is coming that I cannot see yet, but I can feel in every cell of my body. You have tried to talk yourself out of it. You have tried to be realistic, to be logical, to look at your bank account and your relationship status and your career trajectory and tell yourself that the knowing is just wishful thinking. But it will not leave. No matter how many times your mind argues against it, the knowing stays. It sits there like a heartbeat you cannot silence. And the reason you cannot silence it is because it did not come from you. That knowing was placed inside you. It is the fingerprint of divine activity in your life. It is the receipt that confirms the lockdown is real, that heaven is at work, and that what is coming is significant enough to be worth the wait, worth every closed door and silent night and evacuated relationship you have endured. Now I want you to count. How many of those 7 signs did you recognize? Not in theory, in your lived, breathing, daily experience. If you recognize 3 or more, what you are in is not a rough patch. It is a divine lockdown, and it has been operating over your life with more precision and more intentionality than you ever realized. But before I go further, I need to ground this in something solid, because I do not want you to take my word for it. I want you to see the pattern. There is a man in the ancient texts whose story mirrors what you are going through with such precision that it will make the hair on your arms stand up. His name is Joseph, and his lockdown was one of the most brutal, most confusing, and most strategically necessary containments in all of recorded wisdom literature. Joseph was not locked down because he failed. Joseph was locked down because he was chosen. and the world he was born into could not handle what was inside him, so it did what the world always does to things it cannot understand. It buried him. His own brothers, the people who should have loved him most, threw him into a pit, not because he had done anything wrong, because he had a vision. He saw a future where he would stand in a position of authority so significant that even his own family would bow, not in humiliation, but in recognition of what God had built in him. And that vision, that divine download, that glimpse of what was coming, made him dangerous to every insecure, threatened, small-minded person in his environment. So they sold him, like property, like cargo, like an object that could be discarded and forgotten. They sold their own brother to strangers and told their father he was dead. And then it got worse. Joseph ended up in a foreign land, working in a house that was not his, serving people who did not know his name or his calling or his vision. And just when it seemed like he might rebuild something from the wreckage, just when a small door opened, he was falsely accused and thrown into prison, a dungeon, a dark, forgotten underground cell where nobody came looking for him and nobody advocated on his behalf. If Joseph could have seen the plan, he would not have understood it. If God had explained the strategy, it would have sounded like cruelty, because from the inside, the lockdown looked like punishment. It looked like betrayal. It looked like abandonment by the very God who gave him the vision in the first place. But it was none of those things. Every single event, the pit, the slavery, the false accusation, the prison, was a phase of divine containment. The pit separated him from an environment that would have destroyed him. The foreign house taught him administration skills he would need to run an entire nation. The prison introduced him to the right people at the right time, people who would eventually bring his name before the most powerful man on earth. And here is the part that should shake you. When Joseph finally walked out of his lockdown, he did not step into a slightly better version of his old life. He stepped into the second highest position in the most powerful nation on the planet. He went from prisoner to prime minister, not gradually, not through networking or climbing or performing, through release. Heaven opened the gates, and what walked out was not the boy who went in. What walked out was a leader, a strategist, a provider, a man whose decisions would literally save millions of lives during a famine that no one else saw coming. Every year of containment was preparation for a weight of responsibility that would have crushed the unprepared version of Joseph. The prison was not punishment. The prison was the final exam, and he passed it not by fighting, not by forcing, not by banging on the door and demanding to be let out. He passed it by being faithful inside the lockdown, by doing the work that nobody saw, by trusting the vision when every visible circumstance contradicted it. That is you right now. You are in your prison season, and I know it does not feel like preparation. I know it feels like a dead end, but the version of you that walks out of this will not be the version that walked in. And the door that opens will not be a slightly cracked window. It will be a gate so wide that you will spend the rest of your life wondering how you ever doubted what was coming. Now, I promised you something earlier. I said there was an ancient word that would unlock your understanding of the time distortion you have been feeling. And I want to go there now. In the original Hebrew texts, one of the most commonly used words for what God does during a season like yours is the word Shamar. It appears throughout the Psalms, throughout the wisdom literature, throughout the promises and declarations that have been spoken over God's people for thousands of years. Most translations render it simply as protect or watch over. The Lord watches over you. The Lord protects you. And those translations are not wrong, but they are incomplete. Shamar does not mean passive observation. It does not mean God is sitting somewhere distant, glancing in your direction occasionally to make sure you are still breathing. Shamar means to guard with aggressive intentionality. It is a military word. It carries the force of a soldier standing post at a gate, a warrior positioned at the entrance of a vault, eyes forward, weapon drawn, eliminating anything that approaches without authorization. When the text says, God is shamaring you, it means heaven has stationed itself at the door of your life, and nothing enters without clearance. Nothing. Not a person. Not an opportunity. Not a circumstance. Not a thought pattern. If it got through, heaven allowed it because it serves the construction, and if it was blocked, heaven removed it because it threatened the process. That is why people left. That is why doors closed. That is why opportunities dissolved. Not because you are being punished, because you are being shamared, guarded, protected with the kind of fierce, deliberate, aggressive, divine custody that most people never experience, because most people are never carrying something valuable enough to require it. But you are, and heaven knows it, even if you do not, yet. So let me ask you one more time, how many of those 7 signs did you recognize? The exhaustion, the evacuated relationships, the dissolved opportunities, the intensified dreams, the changed tolerance, the distorted time, the knowing. If your spirit confirmed what your mind has been questioning, if something deep inside you just said, yes, this is me, this is what I am living, this is what I could not explain until now, then I want you to type the words "I see it" in the comments, not as a ritual, as a declaration. You see it now. You understand what is happening. And that understanding is the first step out of confusion and into clarity. But knowing that you are in a lockdown is only phase 1, containment. The question that will change everything is not whether you are locked down. You know that now. The question is why. Why did heaven issue this lockdown now? Why this season? Why this level of restriction? Why this degree of isolation? And the answer to that question requires you to understand something about your own mind that you have never been told. Something that involves a frequency in your brain that you were born with, but that the world systematically shut down. And it explains the fog, the fatigue, the difficulty making decisions, and the feeling that you are operating at a fraction of your actual capacity. That is where we are going next. And what I am about to show you will not just explain your lockdown, it will explain your entire life. Now that you know you are in a lockdown, everything shifts. Because when you are sitting in the dark thinking you have been forgotten, the darkness feels like punishment. But the moment you understand that the darkness is a controlled environment, that someone turned the lights off on purpose, because what is growing inside you requires darkness to develop, the same darkness that felt like a grave suddenly starts to feel like a womb. And that is exactly the shift I need you to make right now. Because what I am about to show you are the 3 reasons heaven locked you down, not theories, not guesses. 3 specific structural reasons that explain not just the what, but the why of everything you have been experiencing. And the first one involves something happening inside your brain that almost nobody in your life has ever told you about. The first reason heaven locked you down is frequency purification. And to understand this, I need to take you somewhere most spiritual messages never go. I need to take you into neuroscience, not because science replaces faith, but because the God who designed your spirit also designed your brain. And when you understand what is happening biologically during a lockdown, the spiritual truth becomes undeniable. Your brain operates on frequencies. This is not metaphor. This is measurable, observable, documented neuroscience. Right now, as you are listening to this, your brain is producing electrical signals that oscillate at specific rates, and those rates determine everything from how clearly you think to how deeply you feel, to how effectively you make decisions. There are several frequencies your brain can operate on, but there are two I need you to understand because they are at the center of what is happening to you. The first is what scientists call the survival frequency. It is the frequency your brain defaults to when it is under stress, when it feels threatened, when it is trying to manage too many external demands at once. When you are in survival frequency, your brain is reactive. It is defensive. It is scanning for danger. It processes information through a filter of fear. And everything, every conversation, every opportunity, every relationship gets evaluated through the lens of what could go wrong rather than what is possible. In survival frequency, you are not thinking clearly. You are not creating. You are not connected to your intuition. You are running. Even when you are sitting still, your brain is running. The second frequency is what researchers have identified as the genius frequency. And I want you to pay attention to this because it is going to explain something that has confused you for most of your life. The genius frequency is associated with what neuroscientists call gamma waves. Gamma is the highest measurable brainwave frequency, and it is linked to peak mental performance, deep intuition, heightened creativity, rapid learning, and a state that researchers describe as flow, where everything clicks, where ideas come effortlessly, where decisions feel clear and certain, where you are operating at the absolute ceiling of your cognitive ability. Here is what the research has shown. Studies from institutions including MIT and Princeton have documented that gamma activity is present at extraordinarily high levels in certain individuals. And what makes these individuals remarkable is not that they are more educated or more experienced or more disciplined. What makes them remarkable is that their brains are simply operating on a higher frequency. They see patterns others miss. They process information faster. They access insights that seem to come from nowhere. And when gamma is active, something else happens that the scientific community is still trying to fully understand. Synchronicities increase. The right people show up at the right time. Opportunities appear as if they were placed deliberately in the path. The boundary between intention and reality becomes thinner. Now here is the part that connects this to your lockdown. Every child is born with strong gamma activity. Every single one. When you were young, you learned faster than you do now. You were more creative. You were more intuitive. Ideas came to you like breathing. You did not have to force focus because focus was your natural state. And if you look back at your childhood, genuinely look back, you will remember a version of yourself that was sharper, quicker, more alive, more magical than the version you are today. That is not nostalgia. That is neuroscience. What happened between then and now is what researchers have called the decline effect. Starting around age 7, the education system, the social structure, the demands of modern life, the pressure to conform and perform and fit into systems that were never designed for people like you, all of it begins to suppress gamma activity. Your brain gets pushed out of its genius frequency and into survival frequency, and it stays there for years, for decades, possibly for your entire adult life. And here is the piece that changes everything for the chosen one. You were not born with average gamma. You were born with gamma that was stronger than most people around you. That is why you learned so fast as a child. That is why you felt things more deeply. That is why you had intuitions that no one could explain. That is why teachers did not know what to do with you, why you never quite fit into the systems everyone else seemed to navigate without question. Your gamma was higher. Your frequency was higher. And because it was higher, when the decline effect hit you, you fell further than everyone else. The gap between who you were and who you became, the gap between the child who could light up a room and the adult who can barely get through the day, That gap is not a character flaw. It is a frequency gap, and it has been widening every year of your life as the world continued to push you deeper into survival mode. That is the first reason for your lockdown. Heaven shut down your external world because your brain has been stuck in survival frequency for so long that the only way to begin the reset is to remove every external stimulus that keeps triggering the survival response. The noise, the toxic people, the overwhelming obligations, the constant performance. All of it was feeding your brain a steady diet of survival signals, and your gamma, your genius frequency, your God-given operating system, has been buried under years of accumulated static. The lockdown is not punishing you. The lockdown is clearing the static. It is creating the conditions for your brain to begin recalibrating from survival back to genius. And the exhaustion, the fog, the difficulty concentrating, the feeling that you are operating at 30% of your capacity, all of that is your system in the middle of the reset. It hurts because recalibration is not comfortable, but it is happening, and once it completes, you will think with a clarity you have not experienced since childhood. And here is something I want to plant in your mind right now that I will come back to later. Researchers have discovered that this recalibration, this reactivation of gamma, which normally requires months or even years of intensive meditation or thousands of dollars of biofeedback equipment, can be initiated through a very specific type of audio technology. A neuroscience-based approach that takes approximately 7 minutes. I am going to show you exactly what that is later in this message, because it connects directly to what your lockdown is building. But first, you need to understand the other 2 reasons heaven shut you down, because the frequency reset is only part of the story. The second reason heaven locked you down is identity protection. This one is more personal, and it might be harder to hear. Before this lockdown began, you were surrounded by mirrors. Not physical mirrors, social mirrors. The people in your life, the roles you played, the expectations placed on you, the way others perceived you, and the version of yourself you performed to meet those perceptions. All of it acted as a mirror system that told you who you were. And you believed it. You looked at how others saw you, and you adjusted yourself accordingly. You became the person they expected. You shrunk to fit their framework. You dimmed what was too bright, softened what was too intense, silenced what was too honest. And slowly, over time, the real you got buried under layers of performance so thick that you forgot what was underneath. The lockdown removed the mirrors. When the people left, they took their expectations with them. When the doors closed, they took the roles with them. When the noise stopped, it took the performance with them. And what you are left with, this raw, stripped, uncomfortable version of yourself that you are sitting with right now, this is not a lesser version. This is the first honest version you have encountered in years. Heaven did not lock you down to hurt you. Heaven locked you down to introduce you to yourself, the real one, the one that exists beneath the masks and the modifications and the carefully curated identity you constructed to survive in a world that was never designed for someone like you. And this introduction is not gentle, because it cannot be. If it were gentle, the old identity would survive. It would adapt. It would find a way to reassert itself, and the real you would remain buried. So heaven made it abrupt. It removed everything at once, so you would have nowhere to hide, no audience to perform for, no mirror to adjust to, just you, alone, in the silence, with the terrifying and beautiful question, who am I, when no one is watching and no one is expecting anything? That question is the second reason for your lockdown, and the answer to it is what heaven is protecting, because who you really are, the unperformed, undiluted, unmodified version of you, is so powerful and so necessary for what is coming next, that heaven decided it could not risk that identity being contaminated by one more day of performance. The lockdown is an identity incubator. You are not losing yourself in this season. For the first time in years, you are finding yourself, and what you are finding is someone you do not fully recognize yet, but you will. The third reason heaven locked you down is connection clearing. I touched on this when I described the second sign, the evacuation of relationships. But there is a layer beneath the evacuation that I need to show you now. Some of the people who left your life during this lockdown were not just wrong for this season, they were wrong for your future. And heaven knew that even if you could not see it yet, there are certain people in your life who are connected to the old version of you. They relate to you based on who you were, not who you are becoming. And as long as they remain in close proximity, they unconsciously anchor you to a frequency, an identity, and a set of behaviors that belong to a chapter that is closing. They are not bad people, but they are chapter-specific people, and the chapter is ending. If heaven allowed you to carry those connections into your next season, one of two things would happen. Either they would drag you back to the old frequency because their presence constantly triggers old patterns, old roles, old dynamics, or you would outgrow them so rapidly once the lockdown lifts that the separation would be violent, painful, and damaging to both of you. Heaven chose the merciful option. It separated you now, during the lockdown, while the transition can be processed in silence rather than in public. But it is not just about removal. Connection clearing is also about preparation, because there are people who are meant for your next season, allies, collaborators, partners, souls who operate on the same frequency you are being tuned to, and they cannot find you while you are surrounded by connections that block the signal. Think of it like a radio. If your dial is occupied by static from old stations, the new frequency cannot come through clearly, no matter how strong the signal is. The lockdown is clearing the dial. It is making space on your frequency for the connections that heaven has already assigned to your next chapter. And those connections, the ones waiting for you on the other side of this lockdown, they are not random matches. They are strategic alignments, people who will not need you to shrink, people who will not be threatened by your light, people who will walk beside you into a version of life that the old connections could never have entered, not because they were unwilling, but because they were unequipped. You are not being isolated. You are being cleared for higher connections. And the emptiness you feel right now is not an absence. It is a reservation. Space being held for people you have not met yet, but who are already on their way. So these are the three reasons. Frequency purification. Your brain is being reset from survival mode back to the genius frequency you were born with. Identity protection. The masks are being stripped so the real you can emerge without contamination. Connection clearing. The old relationships are being removed to make space for alignments that match who you are becoming. All three of these are happening simultaneously inside your lockdown. That is why it feels so overwhelming. You are not dealing with one change. You are dealing with three fundamental rewrites happening in your brain, your identity, and your relational world, all at the same time. And the divine strategy behind it is as precise as surgery. But here is what I want you to hold on to as I prepare to show you the next phase. Understanding why you were locked down is critical, but understanding alone is not enough. You need tools, you need a framework, something you can apply tonight, tomorrow, and every day of this lockdown to ensure that you do not accidentally break what heaven is building. Because there are things you can do during a lockdown that cooperate with the process and accelerate the transformation. And there are things you can do that sabotage the entire operation without even realizing it. In the next part, I am going to give you a framework. I call it the Stillness Protocol. It is 3 steps, and it will change how you navigate every remaining day of this containment. And after I give you that framework, something else is going to happen. I am going to speak directly from the Spirit, not teaching, not explaining, but declaring something over your life that I believe heaven has been waiting to release over you. Stay with me. We are entering the part of this message where understanding turns into activation. I told you I was going to give you a framework, something you can use immediately, something that does not require you to go anywhere, buy anything, or wait for the lockdown to end before you begin. And I am going to give it to you now. I call it the Stillness Protocol. And the reason I chose that name is because the single most powerful thing you can do inside a divine lockdown is the thing that feels most unnatural to a generation that has been trained to hustle, grind, perform, and produce. Stillness is not laziness. Stillness is not giving up. Stillness is a strategic posture that aligns your behavior with what heaven is doing. When heaven says, "Be still," it is not giving you permission to rest. It is giving you a mission assignment. Because there are things that can only be built in stillness that collapse the moment you start forcing. The Stillness Protocol has 3 steps, and I want you to absorb each one, not as a concept, but as something you will practice starting tonight. Step 1 is observe without reacting. This is the hardest step because everything inside you is screaming to do something, to fix something, to force a door, to call someone, to create movement, any movement, because the stillness feels like death, and your survival brain is convinced that if you do not act now, you will miss everything. But here is what I need you to understand. Every action taken from survival frequency produces survival results. When you react from fear, you create more fear. When you force from desperation, you attract more situations that require desperation. The energy you operate from determines the quality of what you produce. And right now, if you act before the recalibration is complete, you will build something from the old frequency that will not survive in the new season. So the first step is to observe, not control. Observe. When a wave of anxiety hits, observe it. Name it. Say to yourself, "This is my survival brain trying to protect me from the unknown." Acknowledge it, and then let it pass without acting on it. When the urge to text someone who left surges through you at 2 in the morning, observe it. Recognize it as your old frequency trying to re-establish a connection that heaven has already cleared. And let it pass. When a door you tried to force stays shut, observe the frustration, feel it fully, and then release your grip. Not because you are weak, because you understand something the frustration does not. That door is not stuck. It is locked by heaven. And forcing it open does not get you what is behind it. It gets you what is behind the wrong door, at the wrong time, in the wrong frequency. Observation without reaction is not passive. It is the most disciplined form of spiritual warfare there is. Because the enemy of your lockdown is not the silence. It is not the isolation. It is not the waiting. The enemy of your lockdown is your own reactivity. Every premature reaction is an invitation for the old frequency to reassert itself. And every moment you observe without reacting is a moment the new frequency gets stronger. Step 2 is record what is shifting. During a lockdown, changes are happening inside you every single day. But because they are internal, because they do not produce visible, external results, you do not notice them. You measure progress by what you can see, what you can show people, what you can post, what you can point to and say, "Look, something is happening." And when there is nothing external to point to, you assume nothing is happening. That assumption is a lie. And it is one of the most dangerous lies you can believe during a lockdown because it leads to despair. So the second step is to record. Not in a complicated way, not in a journal with categories and columns and structured reflection prompts. Simply this: at the end of each day, before you sleep, in your mind or on your phone or on a piece of paper, answer one question. What shifted in me today? Maybe your tolerance for drama decreased slightly. Record it. Maybe you had a moment of clarity that lasted 3 seconds before the fog rolled back in. Record it. Maybe you felt a flicker of peace that had no external cause. Record it. Maybe you caught yourself choosing not to react to something that 3 months ago would have consumed you for days. Record it. These shifts are evidence. They are receipts of divine construction. And over the course of weeks and months, when you look back at what you recorded, you will see a pattern that is invisible in real time, but unmistakable in retrospect. You will see a person being rebuilt, one internal shift at a time, one quiet transformation at a time, one degree of recalibration at a time. Recording does something else that is equally important. It fights the narrative of stagnation. Your mind will tell you every single day that nothing is changing, that you are stuck, that this lockdown is pointless. Your recorded shifts become a weapon against that narrative. They are proof, tangible, documented, undeniable proof that something is happening even when your eyes see nothing. Step 3 is prepare in silence. This is the step that separates people who emerge from lockdown ready from people who emerge from lockdown still scrambling. Preparation in silence means beginning to align small, quiet actions with the future you sense is coming, without announcing them, without posting them, without seeking validation for them, and without needing to see immediate results from them. If you sense that your next season involves speaking, begin practicing your voice in private. If you sense that your next season involves leadership, begin studying leaders you respect, not to mimic them, but to understand the weight they carry and whether you are willing to carry it too. If you sense that your next season involves creating something, begin creating in the dark. Sketch the blueprint, outline the vision, write the first chapter, build the prototype, but do it in silence. Tell no one, because premature exposure is one of the most effective ways to kill what is being built in you. When you announce something before it is ready, you invite opinions from people who are not qualified to evaluate what they are seeing. You invite criticism from people who cannot see the finished product. You invite interference from well-meaning but misaligned voices that will try to adjust your vision to fit their comfort zone. Heaven locked you down to protect what is being built. Do not unlock the door by exposing it prematurely. Prepare in silence. Build in darkness. And when the time comes to be revealed, what people see will be so complete, so solid, so undeniable, that there will be nothing left to critique, only something to witness. These 3 steps: observe without reacting, record what is shifting, and prepare in silence. This is your operating manual for every remaining day of this lockdown. You do not need a program. You do not need a guru. You do not need permission from anyone to begin. You need these 3 steps. Applied consistently, applied faithfully, applied with the understanding that stillness is not the absence of progress. Stillness is the foundation of everything that is coming. Now I need to shift the energy for a moment, because what I am about to say did not come from research. It did not come from study. It came from a place I cannot fully explain, and I want to share it with you, not as a teaching but as a receiving. I hear the Spirit saying something, and I want to speak it over your life right now, not as my words, as words that I believe are being placed on my heart for you in this moment. I have locked the gates around you. Nothing enters this space that I have not approved. Nothing leaves that I have not released. The people who walked away did not escape my notice. I escorted them out. The doors that closed did not slam by accident. I sealed them with my own hand. And the silence that has pressed against you, the silence that felt like abandonment, that silence was my presence, closer than I have ever been to you, so close that words were no longer necessary. I know you are tired. I know your body aches with a weariness that sleep cannot reach. I know your mind races at hours that belong to rest. I know you have questioned my goodness in this season. I know you have wondered if I forgot. I know you have sat in the dark and whispered into the ceiling, asking if I am still there. I am still here. I was here in the pit. I was here in the prison. I was here when the last person left and you had no one to call. I was here when the opportunity dissolved and you wondered how you would survive. I was here in the 3 a.m. silence when you thought no one was listening. I did not bring you this far to leave you here. What I am building in you cannot be rushed. What I am forming in you cannot be forced. And what I am about to release through you will be worth every closed door, every silent night, every tear you thought fell unseen. Be still. I am working. Let those words sit for a moment. Do not rush past them. Do not analyze them. Just receive them. Because what was just spoken over you is not information. It is not another teaching point. What was just spoken is the frequency of heaven entering the frequency of your lockdown, and the two are beginning to harmonize. If that landed on you, if something in your chest shifted when you heard those words, if your eyes are stinging or your throat is tight, or your hands are warm, or your heart rate changed, that is not emotion. That is recognition. Your spirit recognized the voice of its source. And that recognition is confirmation of everything I have been showing you. If you received that, if something inside you just said yes, then type the words "I receive" in the comments. Not as an obligation, as a seal. You are sealing what was just spoken into your spirit, so it cannot be stolen by the doubt that will come tomorrow morning when you wake up and the lockdown is still in effect, and the doors are still closed, and the people are still gone. The doubt will come, but what you just received will outlast it. Seal it now. Before I show you what this lockdown is actually building inside you, and before I take you into the third phase, which is fortification, I need to give you something. Not a tool this time. Something softer. Something that many of you did not know you needed until right now. Permission. Because I have noticed something about chosen ones in lockdown. They carry guilt. Not the kind of guilt that comes from wrongdoing. The kind that comes from changing. From pulling away. From no longer being available in the ways they used to be. From disappointing people who expected unlimited access to them. And that guilt has been sitting on your chest, alongside the exhaustion and the fog and the silence. And you have not had a single person look you in the eyes and tell you that what you are feeling is not evidence of selfishness. It is evidence of growth. So let me say what I believe needs to be said. You are allowed to rest during this lockdown without justifying it to anyone. You do not owe anyone an explanation for why you have been quiet. You do not owe anyone an apology for pulling back from spaces that were draining the life out of you. You do not owe anyone a performance of recovery so they can feel comfortable with your process. You are allowed to outgrow people who are not growing. You are allowed to release relationships that were built on a version of you that no longer exists. You are allowed to protect your energy, even when protecting your energy means disappointing someone who expected unlimited access to you. You are allowed to say no without a paragraph of explanation. You are allowed to say nothing at all. You are allowed to be in process. messy, incomplete, uncertain, unfinished process, without needing to present a polished version of your transformation to a world that does not understand what transformation actually costs. And you do not owe anyone an apology for becoming who you were always intended to be. Now, before I move into what is being built inside you during this lockdown, before I take you into the fortification phase and show you the 5 areas of your identity that heaven is reinforcing right now, I want to pause and ask you to do something. If this message has brought clarity to something that was confusing, if it has brought peace to something that felt chaotic, if it has brought language to something you have been feeling but could not name, gently press the like button. Not for me. So this message can reach someone else who is locked down tonight and thinks they have been forgotten. Someone who is sitting in the dark right now, alone, exhausted, questioning everything, and needs to hear that what they are going through is not punishment. It is preparation. Your like sends this further into the world, and it might land in front of the exact person who needs it to survive tonight. Now, let me take you deeper, because everything I have shown you so far, the signs, the reasons, the framework, the declaration, all of it was necessary, but it was preparation for what comes next. You now understand that you are locked down. You understand why. You have a protocol for navigating it, and you have received a direct word from the Spirit, confirming that heaven is present in this season. But there is a question you have not yet asked, and it is the question that unlocks the 3rd phase. The question is not, why am I locked down? You know that now. The question is, what is being built inside me while I am contained? Because this lockdown is not just about removing things. It is not just about stripping masks, clearing connections, and resetting frequencies. Something is being constructed. Something is being fortified. And when you see what it is, when you understand the 5 specific areas of your identity that heaven is reinforcing right now behind the locked doors, you will understand for the first time why heaven treated what is inside you as irreplaceable. And you will understand why it could not risk a single day of premature exposure. That is where we are going next. And what I am about to show you will not just explain your lockdown, it will introduce you to the person you are becoming, the person that even you do not fully recognize yet, but you will. Something is being built inside you right now. You cannot see it, you cannot measure it, you cannot show it to anyone. And that is exactly why it feels like nothing is happening, because the most significant constructions in the universe happen in places no one can observe. A child is built in the darkness of the womb. A diamond is forged in the crushing pressure of the earth. A seed becomes a tree only after being buried so deep that not a single ray of light can reach it. And you, right now, are underground. But you are not decaying. You are being fortified. I want to show you the 3 specific areas of your inner architecture that heaven is reinforcing during this lockdown. These are not abstract concepts. These are functional upgrades, things that are being hardened, sharpened, and expanded inside of you, so that when the gates open, what walks out will not just survive the new season, it will command it. The first area being fortified is your discernment. Before this lockdown, you trusted too easily, not because you were naive, but because you wanted to believe in people. You wanted to see the good. You wanted to give second chances and third chances and 7th chances, because something in your nature could not accept that some people simply do not carry the same values you do. And so you let people in who should have been kept at the perimeter. You gave access to individuals who used that access to drain you, manipulate you, distract you, or position themselves to benefit from your gifts without ever investing in your well-being. The lockdown removed those people, but more importantly, It is rewiring the system that let them in. Right now, something is changing in how you perceive people. You are developing a sensitivity that you did not have before. Not paranoia, not cynicism, discernment. The ability to feel the difference between someone who is aligned with your purpose and someone who is merely attracted to your light. The ability to detect incongruence between what someone says and what they mean. The ability to sense, before any evidence appears, that something is off, and to trust that sense instead of overriding it with politeness. This is why conversations that used to feel normal now feel exhausting. Your discernment has been activated, and it is processing every interaction through a sharper filter. What used to pass through unnoticed is now being flagged. Not because you are judging people, but because your internal security system has been upgraded. Heaven raised the clearance level, and what used to qualify for access no longer does. When this lockdown ends, you will not be the person who lets everyone in. You will be the person who knows exactly who belongs at the table and who does not. And that knowing will protect not just you, but everything you are about to build. The second area being fortified is your authority. And I do not mean authority in the loud, aggressive, dominating sense. I mean spiritual weight, the kind of presence that changes the temperature of a room the moment you walk in, not because you are trying to be noticed, but because what you carry is too significant to be ignored. Before this lockdown, your authority was scattered. It leaked. You gave it away in small daily transactions, agreeing when you wanted to disagree, staying silent when you should have spoken, shrinking when your size made others uncomfortable, deferring your own judgment to the opinions of people who had never walked your path. Every time you did that, a small piece of your authority drained out, and over the years, you found yourself standing in rooms where you should have been leading, but instead you were fading into the background, wondering why no one seemed to take you seriously, why your ideas were overlooked, why your voice was the first to be interrupted and the last to be invited. The lockdown sealed the leaks. In the silence and isolation of this season, with no audience to perform for and no external validation to chase, something has been quietly accumulating inside you. Weight, not heaviness. Authority, the kind that comes from knowing who you are without needing anyone else to confirm it. The kind that comes from making peace with your own voice, your own perspective, your own boundaries, without requiring approval. You might not feel it yet, but it is there, and the evidence is in what has stopped working. The old tactics of people-pleasing that used to keep the peace now make you nauseous. The old habit of shrinking to make others comfortable now feels like a betrayal of something sacred. The old pattern of waiting for permission to move, to speak, to lead, to exist at full volume, that pattern is dying. And what is replacing it is a quiet, grounded, unshakable certainty that you were not built to follow. You were built to carry weight that most people cannot even see, let alone lift. The third area being fortified is your frequency. I introduced this earlier when I showed you how your brain has been trapped in survival mode and how gamma, your genius frequency, was suppressed by the systems and structures of modern life. But I want to go deeper now because the fortification of your frequency is not just about brain chemistry. It is about the entirety of your operating system, spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical, being returned to its original setting. Think of it like a radio that has been stuck on a station playing static for years. You got so used to the static that you forgot it was not the signal. You thought the crackling, the interference, the low-quality sound, that was just how life was. That was just the way your brain worked. That was just the level of clarity you were capable of. And because everyone around you was listening to the same static, no one questioned it. It became normal, but it was never your frequency. Your frequency, the one you were born broadcasting on, was clear. It was strong. It was connected to something so vast and so intelligent that ideas flowed through you without effort. Intuition guided you without explanation, and synchronicities followed you like a shadow. That was your signal. And during this lockdown, the dial is being turned back to it. The fog you have been experiencing is not confusion. It is transition noise. The same noise a radio makes when you turn the dial between stations. It is loud and chaotic and disorienting, but it only lasts for a moment. And then the new station comes through, clear, strong, unmistakable. When your frequency recalibration completes, and it will complete, the difference will not be subtle. You will think differently. You will see differently. You will make decisions with a speed and a clarity that will startle even you. Ideas will arrive as if they were delivered. Connections will form as if they were orchestrated. And the synchronicities, those moments where life seems impossibly coordinated, those will return with a frequency and an intensity that will remind you of who you were before the world told you to be someone else. Now, I have shown you what is being fortified. Discernment, authority, frequency. 3 internal systems being upgraded simultaneously while you sit in the silence wondering if anything is happening. Everything is happening, but I want to go one level deeper, because it is not enough to know what is being built. You need to know who is being built, and this is where I need you to pay very close attention. Because what I am about to describe is not a generic spiritual identity that applies to everyone. This is specific. And as I name each one, I want you to notice which ones make your chest expand, which ones make your eyes sting, which ones make something inside you say, "That is me." There are 5 archetypal identities that I believe are being activated in you during this lockdown. Not all 5 will resonate equally. Some will hit you in the gut, and others will pass through without landing. The ones that hit are yours, and they will become the architecture of your assignment going forward. The first identity is the seer. The seer is the one who perceives what others cannot. Not just sees it, but feels it, senses it, knows it in a way that defies logical explanation. You have always had this. Even as a child, you saw dynamics in rooms that adults missed. You sensed tension between people before anyone spoke. You knew things about situations that no one told you, and when you tried to articulate what you knew, people looked at you like you were making it up. During this lockdown, the seer in you is being refined. The signal is getting clearer. The visions, whether they come in dreams or in waking moments of sudden clarity, are becoming more specific, more detailed, more trustworthy. And the discernment I described earlier is the seer's primary tool. It is being sharpened so that when you re-enter the world, you will not just see people and situations. You will see through them, not with judgment, with clarity. The kind of clarity that protects you and everyone connected to you from deception, manipulation, and misalignment. The second identity is the spiritual warrior. The warrior is not the one who fights. The warrior is the one who does not break. You have been under pressure in this lockdown that would have crushed most people. The isolation, the silence, the financial strain, the emotional weight, the constant temptation to give up and go back to the old life just because the old life was at least familiar. All of it has pressed against you with relentless force, and you are still here. That is not luck. That is not stubbornness. That is the warrior. The part of you that holds the line when every rational argument says, retreat. The part that stays faithful to a vision when there is zero evidence that the vision is real. The part that stands in the dark, knees shaking, heart pounding, and refuses to move from the position heaven assigned. This lockdown is not just testing the warrior. It is forging the warrior. Every day you endure without breaking, the metal gets harder. Every night you survive without quitting, the blade gets sharper. And what will emerge when the heat finally stops is not someone who avoids battles. It is someone who walks into battles that others run from, carrying a calm that cannot be manufactured because it was forged in a furnace that no one else volunteered to enter. The third identity is the cycle breaker. Somewhere in your bloodline, a pattern started. Maybe it was poverty, maybe it was addiction, maybe it was emotional unavailability, or broken relationships, or self-sabotage, or fear-driven living. Whatever it was, it has been passed down through generations like a silent inheritance, and every person in your lineage before you either did not see it or did not have the strength to stop it. You see it, and this lockdown is giving you the strength to stop it. The isolation you are experiencing is not random. It is strategic, because breaking a generational cycle requires separation from the very environment that perpetuates it. You cannot break a pattern while you are embedded in the system that feeds it. You needed distance. You needed space. You needed to be pulled out of the current so you could see it clearly for the first time and say, "This ends with me." And it will. Not because you are special in the way the world defines special, because you are willing to sit in the discomfort, willing to face the pattern without looking away, willing to do the work that everyone before you avoided. The cycle breaker does not inherit freedom. The cycle breaker builds it, and everything they build after that moment stands on a foundation that did not exist until they created it. The fourth identity is the light bearer. The light bearer carries illumination into spaces that have forgotten what light looks like. Not through preaching, not through correcting, through presence, through the quiet, steady glow of someone who has been through the dark and came out still lit. And here is the paradox of your lockdown. You are in darkness right now, and yet the light inside you has not gone out. It flickered. It dimmed. It felt at times like it was one breath away from extinguishing completely. But it held, and the fact that it held, in conditions designed to put it out, proves that what you carry is not a candle that depends on external conditions. It is a fire that burns from an internal source. No wind can reach it. No circumstance can smother it. No season of darkness can outlast it. The lockdown did not dim your light. It proved your light is permanent. And the fifth identity is the voice. The voice is the one who speaks what others feel, but cannot articulate. You have this gift. You have always had it. In conversations, you are the one who says the thing that makes the room go quiet, not because it was offensive, but because it was so true that everyone needed a moment to absorb it. In relationships, you are the one who cuts through the pretense and names the real issue while everyone else dances around it. In your own internal world, you carry a clarity of expression that, when you actually let it out, moves people in ways you do not fully understand. During this lockdown, the voice has been silent, and that silence has been agonizing because speaking is part of your design. It is part of how you process, how you heal, how you contribute. Having that channel shut down has felt like suffocation, but the silence was intentional. Just as a singer rests their voice before the performance of their career, your voice has been resting, not being destroyed, being preserved. And when the lockdown lifts and you open your mouth again, what comes out will carry a resonance that was not there before. Because silence does not weaken the voice. Silence deepens it. Now I want you to think about which of those 5 identities made something inside you move. The seer, the warrior, the cycle breaker, the light bearer, the voice. Maybe it was 1, maybe it was 3, Maybe all five felt like pieces of a puzzle you have been trying to assemble your entire life without knowing what the picture was supposed to look like. The ones that resonated are your primary assignment. They are not something you need to develop from scratch. They are already in you. The lockdown is not installing new software. It is removing the virus that prevented the original software from running. If your spirit just confirmed what is being built inside you, if something shifted as you heard those identities named, type the words, "I am being fortified" in the comments. Let that declaration become part of the construction, because every time you name what is being built, you cooperate with the process. And every time you cooperate with the process, the lockdown moves closer to completion. Before I move on, I want to tell you about someone. I will not use his name, but his story will sound familiar. 14 months ago, this man lost everything in the span of 6 weeks. Not gradually, all at once. His business, which he had built over 7 years, collapsed when a major client pulled out without warning, and 3 others followed within days. His closest friend, the one person he trusted with every fear and every dream, stopped returning his calls for reasons that were never explained. And then his body, as if it had been waiting for permission to fall apart, shut down. Chronic fatigue, insomnia, a fog so thick that he described it as trying to think through wet concrete. He fought it for 8 months. He applied to jobs that never responded. He pitched ideas that no one picked up. He reached out to people who used to champion him and was met with silence. He tried to force every door he could find, and every single one stayed shut. Month 9. Something broke. Not him. The fight. He stopped fighting. Not because he gave up, but because he ran out of strategies. Every plan had failed. Every approach had been exhausted. And in that moment of total surrender, something he had never experienced before happened. The noise stopped. Not the external noise, the internal noise. The desperate planning, the anxious strategizing, the constant mental churning of what do I do, what do I do, what do I do? All of it went quiet. And in that quiet, for the first time in 9 months, he could hear something else. Not a voice exactly, a direction, a knowing. The same knowing I described earlier, the 7th sign. It said, "I locked you down because I am about to build something in you that requires your complete stillness." He did not understand it, but he obeyed it. He stopped forcing. He stopped performing. He started observing, recording, preparing in silence. Month 11. Clarity began to arrive. Not all at once, in fragments. An idea here, an insight there. A conversation with a stranger that planted a seed he did not recognize as significant until weeks later. Month 14. A company he had never contacted, never applied to, never heard of, reached out to him. They had found his work through a series of connections so improbable that calling it coincidence would be an insult to the architecture behind it. They offered him a position that was not just better than what he had lost. It was designed for skills he did not even know he had, skills that were developed during those 14 months of silence, during the very season he thought was destroying him. He told me something I will never forget. He said, "Every door that closed was not a dead end. It was a redirect. And the 14 months I spent in silence were not wasted. They were construction. I just could not see the blueprints because I was standing inside the building." He proved himself in silence before he promoted himself in public. And that is what you are doing right now. You are inside the construction, and the fact that you cannot see the finished product is not evidence that it does not exist. It is evidence that it is not done yet. And when it is done, when heaven declares the lockdown complete and the gates begin to open, what walks out will not need to explain itself. It will not need to defend itself. It will not need to prove itself, because what walks out will speak for itself. Now I want to return to something I planted earlier, something about your brain that I promised to come back to. I told you about the genius frequency, the gamma brainwave that you were born with, the one that was systematically suppressed by the structures and systems of modern life. I told you that this lockdown is creating the conditions for your brain to begin recalibrating from survival frequency back to its original operating system. And I told you that researchers discovered a way to initiate that recalibration in approximately 7 minutes. I want to show you what that is now, because it connects directly to what this lockdown is building, and I believe for some of you, this is part of the reason this message found you tonight. A neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake spent 34 years studying the relationship between brainwave frequency and human performance. His research, building on findings from institutions including MIT, Princeton, Stanford, and Berkeley, focused on a single question: if gamma is the frequency responsible for genius-level cognition, deep intuition, creative flow, rapid learning, and what many researchers describe as a heightened connection to something beyond the purely rational mind, then is there a way to reactivate it in adults whose gamma has been suppressed? The answer, after decades of study, was yes. The traditional approach to gamma reactivation involves biofeedback therapy, which costs approximately $300 per session and requires dozens of sessions before measurable results appear. For those who want to do it at home, the equipment costs roughly $7,000. And even meditation, which can eventually shift brainwave patterns, requires months or years of consistent practice that most people cannot sustain, especially during a season of crisis like a lockdown. What Dr. Lake developed is fundamentally different. He created a digital audio track, 7 minutes long, that uses a technology called brain entrainment to directly guide the brain into gamma frequency. Not through effort, not through discipline, not through years of practice. Through sound. You put on headphones, you close your eyes, you listen for 7 minutes, and the audio does the work that biofeedback machines and decades of meditation attempt to do. Your brain does not need to figure it out. The technology delivers the frequency directly. Now, I need to be honest with you. This is not magic. This is neuroscience. And I am not telling you that 7 minutes of audio will solve every problem in your life. That would be a lie. But what the research shows, and what over 18,000 people who have used this track have reported, is that consistent listening initiates a measurable shift in brainwave activity. The fog begins to lift. Decision-making becomes clearer. Ideas arrive with less effort. And something that I find particularly relevant to what you are going through, the synchronicities return. Those moments where life seems divinely coordinated, where the right person or the right opportunity appears at exactly the right time, those moments increase when gamma is active. Because gamma does not just change how you think, it changes what you attract. Let me tell you about a woman who experienced this. She was 38 years old and had spent the better part of a decade searching for a spiritual connection that felt real. She had tried meditation, yoga, silent retreats, energy healing. Nothing stuck. Nothing produced the deep, sustained sense of alignment she was looking for. She bought this audio track not because she believed in the science. She bought it because, in her words, she had nothing left to lose. 2 weeks after she began listening daily, she did not describe her experience in terms of brain performance or cognitive improvement. She described it with a single word: synchronicities. Things began to align. Conversations she needed to hear appeared out of nowhere. People she needed to meet showed up without introduction. Opportunities that matched her deepest desires materialized as if they had been waiting in the wings for her frequency to shift before they could arrive. She said it felt like the universe had started speaking to her in a language she could finally understand. I share this because what she described is exactly what happens when gamma reactivates. The static clears, the signal returns, and life begins to respond to you differently because you are broadcasting differently. The standard price of this audio is $49. But Dr. Lake made a decision that I think reflects something important about his intention. He wanted this tool to reach the people who genuinely need it, not just the people who can afford biofeedback therapy or $7,000 home equipment. So, for the people receiving this message, the price has been reduced to $39. That is not available on Amazon. It is not available on Spotify. It is not available anywhere else. It is only available through the link in the description and the pinned comment of this message. And I want to be very clear about one thing. There are websites and listings that use the name of this tool, but do not contain the actual brain entrainment technology. They are regular audio files with no embedded frequency modulation. They do not work. The only way to access the genuine track with the full technology, the 4 bonus tools that come with it, including an audio designed for children, a classic book on mindset, a guided visualization, and a blueprint for daily habits, and the complete money-back guarantee with no conditions, is through the specific link I have placed in the description and pinned comment. Nowhere else. If your spirit resonates with this, if the science I shared earlier about gamma and the lockdown and the recalibration made something inside you say, "This is part of my next step," then explore it. Only if you feel led. There is no pressure and no urgency. You are protected by a full refund policy, which means if you listen and feel nothing, you lose nothing. The only risk is not exploring it at all and continuing to operate on a frequency that was never yours to begin with. I am going to return now to what we were building, because there is something critical I need to show you before we enter the most important phase of this entire message. Earlier, when I described the 6th sign, time distortion, I mentioned a word from the ancient Greek texts that I wanted to come back to. The word is Kairos. In the Greek language, there are 2 words for time. The first is chronos. Chronos is the time you see on your clock, the time your alarm sets, the time your calendar measures. It is predictable, linear, mechanical. 60 seconds in a minute, 24 hours in a day, 365 days in a year. Chronos does not care about your readiness. It does not care about your growth. It moves at the same speed whether you are ready or not. The second word is Kairos. And Kairos is nothing like Chronos. Kairos is the appointed time, the divine moment, the exact intersection where readiness meets opportunity and everything shifts. Kairos does not operate on a schedule. It operates on a condition. It does not arrive when the clock says so. It arrives when you are prepared to receive it. Your lockdown is not operating on Chronos. That is why the waiting feels so disorienting. You are measuring your containment with a Chronos clock, counting days and weeks and months, wondering why nothing is moving. But the lockdown does not respond to your calendar. It responds to your internal readiness. It will end not when enough time has passed, but when what is being built inside you is complete. And that reframe changes everything, because it means the lockdown is not running out of time, it is running toward a target. And the target is not a date on a calendar. The target is a version of you that is ready to carry what is coming. This is what Esther understood. In the ancient texts, Esther was a young woman placed inside a palace she did not choose, contained in a preparation process she did not design, hidden from the public eye for a season that must have felt endless. She was not told why. She was not given a timeline. She was simply contained. And for months, while she was being prepared, the world outside was arranging itself into a configuration that would require exactly what she was becoming. When the Kairos moment arrived, when readiness met opportunity, Esther did not have to fight for her position. She stepped into it because the containment had done its work. She was ready, and the phrase that has echoed through thousands of years of human history for such a time as this was not a motivational quote. It was a Kairos declaration. You were prepared for this exact moment, and the moment was prepared for you. That is your story. You are in Esther's preparation room, and the Kairos moment is not approaching randomly. It is approaching strategically, calibrated to the exact moment your lockdown completes what it was designed to build. But before we enter the final and most transformative phase of this message, I need to be honest with you about something, because there is a shadow standing between you and the fullness of what I am about to reveal, and if I do not name it, it will follow you out of this lockdown and sabotage everything heaven has been building. There is an obstacle inside you, not outside, inside, and it has two faces. The first face is impatience. You have been thinking it, maybe not in words, but in impulses. The urge to force a door, the urge to text someone who left, the urge to accept an opportunity that is clearly below what you are being prepared for, simply because it is available and the waiting has become unbearable. The urge to do something, anything, that creates the illusion of progress, even if it moves you in the wrong direction. I understand this. The lockdown is excruciating, and every fiber of your survival brain is screaming that if you do not act now, the window will close and you will be left behind. But I need you to hear this clearly. Every person who broke their lockdown early by forcing a premature exit arrived at their destination unfinished. They stepped into positions they were not yet equipped to hold. They entered relationships that could not sustain the weight of their unfinished identity. They accepted opportunities that were designed for the old version of them, and within months, sometimes weeks, the thing they forced collapsed, and they found themselves locked down again. Starting the process over from the beginning, the lockdown does not respond to force. It responds to readiness. And impatience is not readiness. Impatience is fear, wearing the mask of ambition. The second face of the obstacle is deeper, and it is the one most people will never admit to carrying. It is the fear of what happens when the lockdown actually ends. You want breakthrough. Of course you do, but somewhere beneath the desire, in a room of your heart that you rarely visit, there is a voice that whispers something you do not want to acknowledge. It whispers, "What if I get what I have been praying for and I cannot handle it? What if the door opens and I step through and everyone sees that I do not belong there? What if the success I have been asking for is too heavy for me to carry?" That fear is real, and pretending it does not exist will not make it disappear. It will simply drive your decisions from the shadows, causing you to unconsciously sabotage the very breakthrough you are praying for. But listen to me, that fear is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of wisdom. The people who crashed, the ones who reached positions of influence or abundance or visibility and then imploded, they had no fear because they had no awareness of the weight. They walked in blind. Your fear exists because you can see the magnitude of what is coming. And anyone who can see the magnitude and still stands in the room, shaking but refusing to leave, that person is ready, not despite the fear, because of it. I want to give you a tool for this obstacle, something you can use whenever impatience or fear surges during this lockdown. I call it the frequency audit, and it takes less than 2 minutes. When you feel the urge to force something, or the fear of what is coming tightens your chest, pause and ask 3 questions. First, what voice am I listening to right now? Is this my survival brain reacting to discomfort, or is this my spirit guiding me toward aligned action? If the voice is urgent, desperate, and loud, it is survival. If the voice is quiet, steady, and clear, it is spirit. Survival screams, spirit whispers. Second, what am I introducing into my lockdown that heaven did not put there? Look at the past week. Did you re-engage a conversation that was draining you? Did you consume content that fed your anxiety instead of your peace? Did you allow someone access to your process who does not understand what you are going through? If so, you have introduced a frequency that is interfering with the recalibration. Remove it, not aggressively, quietly, deliberately. Third, is the action I want to take moving me toward the person I am becoming or back toward the person I was? If the answer is back, release it. If the answer is forward, proceed with stillness, not speed. These 3 questions are your checkpoint. Use them daily, because the final stretch of a lockdown is where the greatest temptation lives, and the frequency audit keeps you aligned when your emotions try to pull you off course. Now I want you to release something before we move forward, because you cannot carry what I am about to give you and hold on to what I am about to name at the same time. Your arms are not wide enough for both. Release the timeline you created in your head, the one that says you should be further along by now, the one that says if this was real, it would have happened already. That timeline belongs to Kronos, and your lockdown operates on Kairos. Release the comparison. The person on your screen who seems to be thriving while you are surviving, you do not know what frequency they are operating on. You do not know if their success is built on a foundation that will hold or on sand that is already shifting beneath them. Their timeline is not your blueprint. Release the belief that stillness means stagnation. It does not. Stillness means construction. The most active building sites in the world are surrounded by barricades that keep the public out. From the outside, it looks like nothing is happening. From the inside, an entire structure is rising. And release the fear that you will not be enough when the gates open. You will be. Not because you are perfect, because you are prepared. And preparation is not the same as perfection. Preparation means you have done the internal work. You have endured the fire. You have let the old identity die. And what stands in its place is not flawless, but it is real. And real is more powerful than flawless could ever be. If you are releasing right now, if something is lifting off your chest as you hear these words, type "I release" in the comments. Let that declaration mark this moment. Let it be the line in the sand between the person who was carrying the weight and the person who set it down. Now take a breath. The heaviest part is behind you, because what I am about to reveal next is the deepest truth of this entire message. Everything I have shown you, the signs, the reasons, the fortifications, the identities, the obstacles, all of it was necessary. All of it was building toward a single revelation that ties everything together and redefines not just your lockdown, but your entire understanding of who you are. Every sign you recognized was pointing here. Every reason I showed you was leading here. Every identity I named was a fragment of this larger truth. And when you hear it, when it finally lands, something will snap into place inside you that has been loose for your entire life. You will understand for the first time why heaven treated you as irreplaceable, why the lockdown had to be this severe, why the containment had to be this complete, and why the person who walks out of this season will not just be different from the person who walked in, they will be unrecognizable. That is where we are going now. And I need you to give me your full attention, because what comes next is not information, it is revelation. Everything I have shown you up to this point has been true, and everything I have shown you up to this point has been incomplete. I told you the lockdown was about containment. That is true. I told you it was about purification, resetting your frequency, protecting your identity, clearing your connections. All true. I told you that what is being built inside you is your discernment, your authority, and your genius frequency. True. I told you that 5 archetypal identities are being activated in the silence. True. But all of those truths are expressions of a deeper truth, one that I have been holding back until now because it could not land properly until you walked through everything that came before it. The signs had to be recognized first. The reasons had to be understood first. The fortifications had to be named first. The obstacles had to be released first. Because what I am about to say does not make sense to someone who has not done that work. It only makes sense to someone who has walked the full path. And you have, so here it is. You were never being protected from something. You were being activated for something. Let that hit. The lockdown was never defensive. It was never about shielding you from the outside world, because the outside world was dangerous. The lockdown was offensive. It was strategic. It was a divine deployment protocol, and every phase you walked through, containment, purification, fortification, was not heaven protecting a fragile thing. It was heaven preparing a weapon, and that weapon is you. Heaven did not hide you from the enemy. Heaven hid the enemy from what it was building, because if the forces that oppose your calling had seen what was being constructed inside you during this season of silence, they would have done everything in their power to stop it before it was complete. The lockdown was not a quarantine. It was a classified operation, and you were the project. Every closed door was not a barrier. It was a blast shield, keeping premature exposure from damaging the structural integrity of what was being assembled. Every departed person was not a loss. They were being cleared from the construction site because they did not have the security clearance to witness what was being built. Every silent night was not emptiness. It was a clean room, sterile of interference, where the most delicate components of your assignment could be installed without contamination. The chrysalis looks like a coffin from the outside, but inside the chrysalis, every cell of the caterpillar is being dissolved and reorganized into something with wings. The dissolution feels like death, but it is architecture. And what is being built in that darkness is not a slightly improved version of what went in. It is an entirely new species. That is what is happening to you. The person who entered this lockdown is being dissolved, not destroyed. Dissolved. Every false belief, every borrowed identity, every frequency that did not belong to you, every survival pattern that kept you safe but small. All of it is being broken down so that the raw materials can be reorganized into the version of you that heaven actually designed. And that version does not just survive the next season. That version commands it. I need to take you into a story now, because this truth, this paradigm shift, is not new. It has happened before. And the clearest example is a man named Moses. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness. 40 years. Not 40 days, not 40 weeks. 40 years of silence, solitude, and obscurity in a desert that no one important was watching. And during those 40 years, every single person who had known the old Moses, the Egyptian prince, the man of privilege and education and access, every single one of them had either forgotten him or written him off. 40 years. Imagine the internal conversation. Imagine standing in the desert at year 12, at year 25, at year 38, looking at the same sand, the same sky, the same sheep, and wondering if you imagine the calling entirely. Imagine the doubt. Imagine the rage. Imagine the quiet, devastating whisper that says, maybe I was wrong about everything, but Moses was not wrong, and the wilderness was not a waste. Every year in that desert was a year of recalibration. Every day of obscurity was a day of construction. The man who entered the wilderness was impulsive, violent, impatient, and operating on a frequency of survival that would have gotten him killed if he had tried to lead a nation in that state. The man who walked out of the wilderness 40 years later was patient, measured, grounded, and carrying an authority so deep that when he spoke, even kings listened. And here is the part that should redefine everything for you. The staff Moses carried in the wilderness, that simple, unremarkable shepherd's stick that he used to guide sheep across empty terrain for decades. That staff became the instrument that parted the Red Sea. The same tool he carried in obscurity became the tool that performed the most iconic miracle in all of human history. Nothing that happened in the wilderness was wasted. The patience he developed was preparation for leading a stubborn people who would test him for generations. The solitude was preparation for hearing a voice that only speaks in silence. The obscurity was preparation for carrying a visibility so intense that it would have incinerated a man who had not been tempered by 40 years of fire. And the lockdown, the 40 years of containment that looked like punishment, that felt like abandonment, that seemed to serve no purpose at all, was phase 4 all along. Deployment. The wilderness was the factory, and what walked out of it was not a shepherd. It was a deliverer. That is you. Your lockdown is not your wilderness forever. Your lockdown is your factory. And the version of you that walks out will carry a staff that was shaped in the silence, tempered in the dark, and designed to part waters that no one else can move. And now I want to speak again from a place that is deeper than teaching. I hear something being spoken over you right now, and I want to release it without filtering it, without softening it, without making it more comfortable than it is meant to be. You were never in danger. You were in development. The season that felt like your ending was my beginning in you. The pit was not a grave, it was a foundation. The prison was not a sentence, it was a classroom. And the wilderness was not punishment. It was a private rehearsal for the public stage I have been building. I did not take things from you. I repositioned them. The people who left were not stolen. They were graduated from your life because their assignment in your story was complete. The doors that closed were not denied. They were redirected because behind them was a smaller version of what I am preparing. I am not just restoring what was taken. I am building what has never existed. Something with your fingerprint and my blueprint. Something that required every tear, every silent night, every unanswered prayer, and every moment you thought I was absent. I was never absent. I was working in the room you could not enter. And when I open these gates, the world will not be ready for what walks out, but you will be, because I made sure of it. Do not rush past what you just heard. Let it sit in the deepest part of you. Let it reach the rooms of your heart that doubt has occupied for months, because what was just spoken is not a concept. It is a frequency, and it is calibrating something inside you right now that my words alone cannot reach. Now I want to take you into something experiential, not teaching, not explanation. Experience. In your mind, I want you to stand up. You do not need to physically move, but in your imagination, stand. You are inside a room. You have been in this room for what feels like a long time. The walls are close, the light is low, the air is still. And you have spent every day in this room believing that you were locked in, that someone or something sealed you here against your will, and the key was on the other side. But now, I want you to look at the door. Really look at it. Look at where the lock is. The lock is on your side. You are not locked in. You are locked with the presence that has been sustaining you, guiding you, building you in this darkness. It is in the room with you, and it has been here the entire time. You were never alone in this lockdown. You were accompanied by the very force that designed it, and the key is in your hand. It has always been in your hand. The lockdown does not end when heaven decides the clock has run long enough. The lockdown ends when you are ready, when the construction is complete, when the person who holds the key is the same person who was being built in the dark, and that person finally knows, not hopes, not wishes, knows that what is on the other side of that door is theirs. Feel the weight of that key in your hand. Feel the shift in the room. Something just changed. Not outside, inside. Now, I want to speak directly to who you are, not who you were, not who the world told you to be, who you actually are underneath every mask, every modification, every survival strategy, every version of yourself that you performed to keep the peace. You are the seer. You perceive what others miss. You read rooms, relationships, and realities with a depth that intimidates the shallow and comforts the honest. Your vision was not given to you for your own benefit. It was given so that others could walk safely in places they cannot see clearly. You are the warrior. You hold ground that others abandon. You carry weight that others set down. You stay when leaving would be easier and fight when surrendering would be more comfortable. Not because you enjoy the battle, because something in your design refuses to let the line fall. You are the cycle breaker. What was passed down stops with you. The pattern that survived generations will not survive your generation because you chose to stand in the gap and absorb the cost of ending it. Your children and your children's children will walk in a freedom that exists because you were willing to burn in the fire that forged it. You are the light bearer. You walk into dark rooms and the atmosphere changes, not because you perform, because you carry something that darkness cannot tolerate. Your presence is disruptive to every low frequency in your vicinity, and the discomfort certain people feel around you is not a flaw. It is confirmation that your light is doing exactly what it was designed to do. And you are the voice. You speak what others feel but cannot articulate. Your words carry weight that you underestimate and reach places you cannot measure. When you open your mouth after this lockdown, what comes out will not be the same voice that went silent months ago. It will be deeper, it will be clearer, and it will move things that have not moved in years. This is who you are, not who you are becoming, who you already are. The lockdown did not create these identities. It revealed them by removing everything that was hiding them. And now I need to give you something practical, because identity without strategy is just inspiration, and inspiration fades. Strategy endures. I call this the 3-circle rule, and it will protect everything that has been built inside you as the lockdown begins to lift. Think of your life as 3 concentric circles. The inner circle, Circle 1, is you and the divine alone. This is the space where you process, pray, listen, and receive. Nothing enters this circle without sacred clearance. No opinions, no advice, no well-meaning perspectives from people who do not carry what you carry. Circle 1 is where the blueprint lives, and the blueprint is shown only to the architect and the builder. You are both. The second circle holds no more than 3 people. These are your trusted counsel. The people who have earned access through consistent loyalty, demonstrated wisdom, and the ability to handle the weight of what you share without crumbling under it or trying to redirect it. 3 people. Not 5, not 10, 3. Because every additional person in Circle 2 increases the risk of premature exposure exponentially. These 3 do not need to understand everything. They need to be trusted with anything. The third circle is everyone else, and Circle 3 operates on one rule. They see results only. They never see process. Do not share what is being built with people who have not earned the right to see the construction site. When the building is finished, you will open the doors. Until then, the site is closed. This is not secrecy. This is strategy. Joseph did not announce his dream to people who could handle it. He announced it to people who could not, and it cost him the pit. Learn from his story. Do not announce what is not yet manifested. Do not explain your silence to people who do not understand the language of lockdown. And do not unlock the door of your containment to let in feedback from people who have never been inside one. Protect the deployment. Because what heaven built in the dark was never meant to be evaluated by people who only know how to live in the light. If you feel the weight of what has been spoken, if you feel the shift that has been happening across this entire message, settling into your bones like concrete poured into a foundation, then I need you to do something. Type the words "I am ready." Say it in your spirit as you type it. Not because you are certain, not because the fear is gone, but because readiness was never the absence of fear. Readiness is the presence of conviction that outweighs it. You are standing in the room, the key is in your hand, the lock is on your side, and you are ready. Type it now. I am ready. Take a breath. The deepest truth has been spoken. The paradigm has shifted. The identity has been declared. The strategy has been given. Now it is time to seal it. Because truth that is not sealed can be stolen by the first wave of doubt that hits tomorrow morning. And what we are about to do next is not a regular prayer. It is not a closing thought. It is not a summary. What comes next is an activation, a commissioning, a sealing ceremony that takes everything that was deposited into you over the course of this entire message and locks it into your spirit so permanently that no circumstance, no person, no doubt, and no delay can remove it. Stay with me. We are almost there, and the reason this message was placed in front of you tonight is not behind you. It is ahead of you, right now. Before we begin what I am about to speak over you, I need you to do one thing. If you can, place your hand on your chest, not as a gesture, as an anchor. Let your hand rest where your heartbeat lives, because what comes next is not meant to be received by your mind. Your mind has received enough tonight. What comes next is designed to bypass the intellect entirely and land directly in the place where transformation begins. In your spirit, in the room behind your ribs that no person has ever been able to reach, but that the divine has always had a key to. We begin with gratitude, not for the blessings that are easy to name, for the ones that came disguised as devastation. Thank you for the lockdown. Thank you for the doors that closed when I was standing right in front of them. Thank you for the people who left when I begged them to stay. Thank you for the silence that pressed so hard against my chest that I thought I would suffocate, because now I understand that the pressure was not trying to crush me. It was trying to reshape me. And it did. Thank you for the nights I spent alone wondering if anyone heard me. You heard me. Thank you for the plans that fell apart, even though I built them with everything I had. You had better plans. Thank you for the fog that made it impossible to see more than one step ahead. You were teaching me to walk by faith so deep that sight was no longer a requirement. Thank you for the exhaustion that forced me to stop performing. Thank you for the isolation that forced me to meet myself. And thank you for the fear, because without it, I would not have discovered that my courage runs deeper than I ever knew. Now I want to acknowledge what was carried in this season, because heaven sees. Heaven saw every weight that was carried in secret, every burden that was shouldered without applause, every moment of faithfulness that no one witnessed and no one thanked you for. Heaven saw the 3 a.m. prayers whispered into the ceiling of a dark room when you were not sure if anyone was listening. Heaven saw the smile you put on when the world asked how you were doing, and you said fine, because the truth would have taken longer than anyone was willing to hear. Heaven saw the decision you made to keep going when every rational argument said stop. Heaven saw the tears that fell when no one was watching, and the strength you summoned from a well you thought was empty. None of it was invisible. All of it was recorded, and all of it mattered. Now it is time to release, not gently, not partially, completely. What I am about to name, I want you to let it fall. Do not hold it. Do not negotiate with it. Do not promise to carry it just a little longer. Release it now. Release the old timeline, the one that said you should have arrived by now. It was never yours. Let it fall. Release the old identity, the performed version, the curated version, the version that shrunk and adjusted and contorted itself to fit rooms that were never designed for someone your size. Let it fall. Release the old ceiling. The invisible barrier that told you this is as far as someone like you gets. It was a lie built on the fears of people who stopped climbing. Let it fall. Release the comparison. Every face you measured yourself against. Every life that made yours feel insufficient. Every success you witnessed that made your silence feel like evidence of failure. Let it fall. Release the old interpretation. The story you told yourself about why this happened. The one that said, I am being punished. The one that said, I must have done something wrong. The one that said, if God really loved me, this would not hurt this much. That interpretation was wrong. And you have carried it long enough. Let it fall. Release the survival frequency, the constant scan for danger, the hyper-vigilance, the exhausting, relentless monitoring of every word, every face, every situation for signs of threat. You have been running on survival for so long that you forgot what safety feels like. Tonight you remember. Let it fall. Release the unworthiness. The deep, quiet belief that what is coming might be real, but it is probably meant for someone else. Someone more qualified, someone more deserving, someone more together. That belief is the last wall standing between you and what heaven has prepared. And it is coming down. Right now. Let it fall. Now we activate. Not request. Not hope for. Not wait for. Activate. Because what I am about to call forth is not something that needs to be created. It already exists inside you. It has been there since before you took your first breath. The lockdown did not install it. The lockdown revealed it. And right now, in this moment, we are going to activate what has been dormant, switch on what has been dimmed, and call forward what has been hiding behind every mask you ever wore. Activate the seer, the frequency of perception that sees through surface and into substance. Let it come online, let it sharpen, let it see with the clarity it was always designed to carry. Activate the warrior, the spine of spiritual steel that does not bend under pressure, does not break under fire, and does not retreat from assignments that others refuse to touch. Let it rise. Let it stand. Let it hold the line with the force of someone who knows they were built for this exact battle. Activate the cycle breaker, the ending of every inherited pattern that has haunted your bloodline for generations. Let it stop. Right here, right now, in this body, in this lifetime. The chain breaks tonight. Activate the light bearer, the fire that could not be extinguished by the darkest season of your life. Let it blaze. Not gently, fully. Let it illuminate every room, every relationship, every space you enter from this moment forward, with a radiance that cannot be manufactured and cannot be imitated. Activate the voice. The silence is ending. What has been building in the quiet is about to come out, and when it does, it will carry a resonance so deep that the people who hear it will not just listen, they will be changed. We do not beg for these activations. We do not request them with trembling hands. We activate them with the authority of someone who has walked through fire and come out still breathing, still standing, still lit. Now we protect. Cover this rising from premature exposure. What is being activated tonight is still tender. It is still new. And the enemy knows that the most effective time to attack something powerful is in its infancy, before it has hardened, before it has learned to defend itself. Guard what is being built from self-sabotage, from the old patterns that will try to reassert themselves in the coming days when the emotions settle and the doubt creeps back in. Guard it from wrong counsel, from well-meaning but misaligned voices that will try to redirect what they do not understand. Guard it from the comparison that will try to convince you that someone else's breakthrough invalidates yours. And guard it from the voice of the enemy that will whisper tomorrow morning, "That was just a message. Nothing really changed." Something changed, and what we protect tonight cannot be reversed. Now we declare, and this is the peak, the highest point of this entire message, not shouted, not performed, spoken with the quiet, devastating certainty of someone who is no longer guessing about who they are. The lockdown is lifting, the gates are opening, and what walks out is not who walked in. I am not the person who entered this season of silence. That person has been dissolved. What stands in their place is something that was designed in heaven, built in the darkness, forged in the fire, and tested in the silence. I am the one who carries light into rooms that forgot what light looks like. I am the one who holds ground that others abandoned. I am the one who breaks chains that survived generations. I am the one who sees through what others cannot and speaks what others will not. I am not emerging from this lockdown surviving. I am emerging deployed, commissioned, sent, carrying a staff that was shaped in the wilderness and designed to part waters that have not moved in years. And I do not need the world to be ready for me. I only need to be ready for what the world is about to witness. I am ready. Do not say Amen yet. I want you to sit in this frequency for a moment. Do not move. Do not scroll. Do not reach for your phone. Let the weight of what was just declared settle into your bones like rain soaking into dry earth. Close your eyes if you can, and, in your mind, see the gates of your lockdown beginning to open. Not sudden, not violent, slow, deliberate, light pouring through the crack, warm, golden, filling the room that has been dark for so long. And as the gates open wider, you step forward, not running, not rushing, walking with the posture of someone who knows exactly who they are, walking with the calm of someone who has already survived the worst and is no longer afraid of what comes next, walking with the authority of someone who was built for this moment, and this moment was built for them. It is done. It is sealed. The lockdown served its purpose, and you will never be the same. And so it is. Amen. One more thing before you go, and I mean this. In the next 72 hours, you are going to notice 3 things. Not because I am making a prediction, because this is the pattern that follows what was just activated. First, something in your environment will shift. A conversation you were not expecting, a message from someone you had written off, A door that cracks open that you stopped knocking on. It will be small, but it will be unmistakable. Pay attention. It is the first sign that the lockdown is responding to your shift. Second, something in your body will release. The tension you have been carrying in your chest, your shoulders, your jaw. Somewhere in your body you will notice a softening, a loosening, as if something that has been gripping you for months finally let go. That is the physical manifestation of what just happened spiritually. Third, something in your mind will clarify. A decision you have been agonizing over will suddenly seem simple. A direction you could not see will become obvious. The fog will thin, not disappear entirely, but thin enough for you to see the next step. And the next step is all you need. Watch for these three things. And when they appear, you will know that what happened here tonight was not just a message, it was a turning point. You are not the person you were when you pressed play. Something shifted, something sealed, something activated that will not be deactivated by your circumstances, your doubts, or the noise that will try to re-enter your life tomorrow. If this message brought clarity to confusion, if it brought peace to chaos, if it brought language to something you have been feeling but could not name, let your like be your amen without words. Let it be your quiet agreement that something happened here that mattered, and let it send this message further into the world so it can find someone else who is locked down tonight and thinks they have been forgotten. There are more messages being prepared for your next season, words that are being formed right now for the specific challenges and breakthroughs that are ahead of you. Stay connected to this space so they can find you when the timing is right, because what heaven started tonight is not a single event. It is the beginning of a sequence, and the next piece is already being written. For those who felt called to what I shared earlier about the 7-minute gamma recalibration, the neuroscience-based tool that reactivates the genius frequency your brain was born with, the link is in the description and the pinned comment. Only if your spirit confirms, only if you feel led. That is between you and the divine. And one last thing. If someone came to mind while you were listening to this, someone who has been unusually quiet lately, someone who has been pulled away from everyone and no one seems to understand why, someone who looks fine on the surface, but you can sense that something deeper is shifting inside them, someone who has been trying to explain what they are going through, but the words never come out right, because there are no words for what a lockdown feels like from the inside. Send this to them. Do not just think about it. Send it. Tonight. Right now. Because this might be the confirmation they have been praying for. This might be the message that helps them understand that the isolation is not punishment. The silence is not abandonment. The closed doors are not dead ends. And they are not alone. Right now, all across the world, chosen ones are going through this exact same shift. The same signs, the same silence, the same exhaustion, the same knowing. And tonight, something changed in all of you at once. You are part of something larger than your individual lockdown. You are part of a global activation, and the person you send this to might be the next one to wake up. May the peace that surpasses understanding guard your heart and your mind. May the gates that are opening lead you to places your imagination has not yet touched. May the version of you that was built in the dark be received by a world that has been waiting for your light. You are not leaving a message. You are leaving a season. Walk